The story now. Stories of successful women in business are far less common than those of men, and that's especially true in the mining industry. Dineo Peta, who's the founder of Peta Attorneys, is joining us now to talk about the role that women play in the male-dominated industry, as well as the importance of black female-owned firms. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Dineo, and an extremely important conversation that we need to be having constantly in South Africa and perhaps across the globe, really. But tell us about yourself and your experience with your firm in this particular industry.
Good morning, Masejo. Thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, it has been quite a challenge, I must say, but I think my foundation was well laid. I was fortunate to work for one of the leading global mining companies at the time, and fortunate to work under leadership that was committed to transformation and the development of women in the industry. So I was really empowered from a technical perspective and also from an operational perspective, you know. And I would say that the challenges that I encountered was more when I went on my own, because I wasn't wearing the hat of the global mining company. I was a small little firm, black woman-owned firm, operating in a male-dominated industry. And you'll be aware that, particularly in an industry of this nature, is that opportunities are really closed. It's an all-boys club, if you can say, put it like that. There's greater preference given to the bigger firms, understandably so, by virtue of their capacity and their historical experiences within the industry. But it's all about perseverance, hey? It's all about perseverance. It's all about growing yourself, because when I joined in practice, I knew I was experienced within industry, but one thing that I didn't realize was how I had to position myself as a business and as a law firm to be able to grow in industry. So yeah, it's all about perseverance, all about personal growth. And though you will see, you know, the racial discrimination has always existed, but I think it's something that one has to move away from and seeing it as development for yourself, because the reality is, as women, and black women for that matter, black people actually, we always have to work twice as harder to be able to move up and prosper. But in working twice as harder, with that comes personal development and identifying areas for yourself that you need to improve to be able to position yourself with your counterparts. So yeah, it has been quite a journey, but I think we've been fortunate. We have some good clients in government that have had confidence in us. And some of these projects and instructions that we've executed have really paved the way for us to grow and develop further.
No, absolutely. And with the reality that you just painted a picture of, Dineo, the notable achievements, you know, and the lessons that you've now learned as a business owner and a legal professional in this industry that you've just described is a very difficult one to break into.
Oh yes, and what I've seen is that the moment you get your foot in the door, it opens up other channels as well. So it probably took me a good 3 to 4 years to reach some form of stability within my firm. But I think the most notable challenge was my very first board appointment was being appointed as a deputy chairperson of the National Nuclear Regulator. And that in itself, you know, and being able to perform at that level has now opened the door towards other board appointments. I was recently appointed to the board of Alexco, which is also a state mining company. So with this perseverance and commitment, and also support from industry players that are influential, one has had these notable achievements in industry.
No, absolutely. So what encouraged you to then go ahead and start a business in this male-dominated industry and achieve the kind of success that you've just described?
was encouraged by the fact that there were no black female lawyers, law firms in particular, that specialize in mining law, because we were always briefing the big five, and yet we had a mining charter that says empower black women empower rather historically disadvantaged individuals, and within that there's a component of women empowerment. And I said, these are opportunities that perhaps, being as experienced as I am within industry, that I could take advantage of. And it didn't come that easy. You know, there's this assumption that because you're black and female, automatically business will come flowing to you. And it does not work like that at all. It's actually when you're black and female, like I said previously, you actually need to work twice as harder in order to be able to position yourself. So I was greatly encouraged by the transformation initiatives that government put in place. And with that, you were recently, you were just before I came on speaking to the maritime sector. Our company has also been endorsed to champion transformation in the maritime legal sector. So these are some of the motivations that inspire one to continue to want to make a contribution and continue to want to open the doors for other black women to be able to join industry. I believe that when you have been empowered, there's a reciprocal obligation on yourself to empower others. And it's that motivation that keeps me going as well.
Something that could be demotivating, though, Dineo, is something like this. We've got at least about 64.7% of top management positions that are occupied by white people, while 63.7% of junior management is occupied by black people. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, and really the kind of transformation we need to see at management level in the country?
So, and that's a reality. That's a reality. The higher you move to executive level is where you start seeing transformation becoming narrower and narrower, and where you see white males continuing to occupy executive management positions. And what that necessitates, I think, it's leadership within these organizations to drive transformation all the way to the top. So it needs to be built into one's KPIs as an entry mining engineer, to be able to have a career progression plan that will not see them get stuck at middle management. I remember when I was working for BHP Billiton, we had a leadership, and that's why, you know, that company, one of the reasons that company was so successful was their genuine commitment to their statutory obligations. And what you saw is we had leadership development programs that were designed for junior and middle management to groom people to move up to executive management. So that's what we need to see, but that can only be driven by top leadership, and it also needs to be driven by the policies and the legislation that government puts in place. We had a knock on transformation with the AfriForum Constitutional Court judgment that basically nullified the preferential procurement regulations. And though that does not speak to, you know, executive and management progression, it does speak to transformation of black people, and black people being given opportunities to accelerate themselves higher.
No, absolutely. Dineo, those are very interesting insights, and really just good luck with your growth within a difficult industry, and of course congratulations on the successes that you have achieved. But it's important to note that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and a lot more needs to be done to empower many black females in the country so that they can occupy seats at the table that they deserve to be at. Dineo Peta, who's the founder of Peta Attorneys, there joining us.